saw cat food, a wave of cat food just like smash up against the door. This thing is fucking, is basically launching little pebbles of food onto our half pipe.
Cat food's having a good time. Extreme cat food.
My cat is just sitting in front of it getting bathed.
She saw get like 15 hot dogs hit in the face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Cats love that shit.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're good. I think that's the intro scene that I knew. Ooh, why is that wiggling? Let me see if I can fix that real quick.
Do we have a tweet?
We probably do not have a tweet. I don't usually do the tweets, so I'll let you take a look at that. Let me...
I don't think I think I got a new phone, so I got logged out of everything. So I don't think I even have access to the. No, I don't have access to the giant bomb.
What'd you get? What kind of phone did you get?
I got an iPhone, obviously, because I'm a fucking sucker.
Well.
I got a 15 Pro Max with that crazy camera.
Yeah.
It's great. I can sit in there. I can watch Warriors games live and zoom in really close on my team losing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, the video camera on that is incredible.
It's really nice. You can like record in like ProRes and all kinds of other nonsense. It was a completely frivolous purchase. I went in there to fix a phone and came out with a new phone.
I think we're good. You ready if we get started? Let me actually look at
Always.
this last thing here. Yeah, Jen's saying it shoots in log. To him, that's not frivolous. There's nothing frivolous about that.
Hell yeah. Jan, are you tweeting?
Let me see.
It shoots in log, yeah. I need to have like a sit down with Jan and just have him be like, can you explain what any of this shit is and how do it?
Yeah, I can tell you how that conversation ends, and you shouldn't use any of it. Just use the simple stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, I get it too. All right, everybody. I think we're going to fade to black. Jan, if you want to go to Hello YouTube, I think we're good. I am going to get in here. You ready, Tam?
Yeah, I just realized that I can use my incredibly powerful camera in conjunction with my air cleaning device to create the world's most heinous content.
Oh, God.
And you know what? I'm ready.
Giant Bomb in 2024, everybody. Look out. All right, we're fading to black. Here we go. Starting in 5, 4, 3. It's the wrong button. I hit the wrong button, Tam. Let's go. There we go. It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for December 15th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, PlayStation canceled one of its few publicly announced projects, and the Game Awards set a new record. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Tamoor Hussain, everybody. Tam, how are you doing?
I'm here. I am ready for DREGS Day. I'm always ready for DREGS Day. I am the Dreg.
We together we dregs. We are dregs, and I forever shall dreg. Yeah, listen.
Judge Dregs.
Judge Dregs. I want that art real bad, everybody. Get that as Tam, please, immediately. Yeah, you know, there is like the big story today, and then everything else, Dregs Day. That's how it goes sometimes. We'll get into all of it pretty soon, but damn, we're wrapping up the year. I think all of our Game of the Year content is behind us, like over at GameSpot as well. I saw you guys hand the award to the Larian guys. That was really that was a really nice moment. I'm glad you were able to do that. But are you like, okay, now I can play what I want, or are you still catching up on games that you feel you want to play from this year?
Oh, man. So I am still doing a little bit of both. There's a bunch of games that I know that I would want to sink way more time into, like Pizza Tower. I only played a little bit. I got enough of it to make a good kind of like, have a good understanding of it so I can factor it into end of year discussions. But I just need that Ren and Stimpy-ass game in my life a bit more. I also want to go and finish up Yakuza the Gaiden, the man who erased his name. I want to finish that up. I've still got bits of Lies of P that I need to wrap up as well that I want to do. So I'm playing a mixture of games. I want to tick off some major ones this year. I might try and finish Tears of the Kingdom.
Where'd you leave that off at?
I fell off, like, I did that thing, and I can't stop myself from doing it, but I know it's why it always kills it for me. I don't stick to the critical path, the golden path. And I think that's why I burn out pretty quickly. I end up doing a lot of the other things where it's like, oh, I'm going to unlock all the towers before I even go to the first, I'm going to pick up all of these seeds first. And then by the time I'm ready to play, I'm like, I'm done with this, man. I'm sick of it.
You have to just embrace the like in Pikmin 4, the Dandori is like, optimizing your perfect play. In Tears of the Kingdom, you have to play the exact opposite. You just got to take it as it comes and go with the flow a little bit there. And that means, you have an idea about what you're going to do. When you get distracted, go do that thing and then use that to like bring you back to the critical path. That's definitely true.
I think I got like 2 or 3 of the tears or memories or whatever the hell they were called.
Yeah,
I did 2 of the dungeons.
Getting the tears, those memories through the tears is the thing I do recommend everyone at least try to do that, because that will kind of keep you on the straight and narrow a little bit. And I like the story that gets portrayed there. I think there's some really cool moments, and then that culminates at the end with one of the better moments in Zelda. It's really emotional, I'll say, at the very least.
Yeah, the thing that I got caught up in was the Undercity. What is it called? The Dark Place? What is it called?
The Underground is just what I call it, but yes.
I ended up exploring that way too much.
Yeah.
It's like our friend, I'm sure you know him, Andrew Goldfarb, who works at Sucker Punch. He basically completed the game without touching the main quest before starting it, so he had everything. And then he started the main quest, and it was weird for him. He's like, I've already done this. What are you talking about?
I definitely had some moments like that where I'm like, I've been there and did that whole thing that you're trying to tell me to do, and they're like, oh, okay, well then I guess just go talk to this person. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I wish I could live that life. But yeah, I want to play a bit of that. There's a bunch of other games that I want to play. I also just want to like read a bit, and I've got a pile up of books, and I've got anime that I need to watch. Steel Knight in chat says Kiri and Tam actually have a thing in common, but no spoilers. I know what that thing is. We've never done crimes. Neither of us has ever done crime.
Innocent little angels is how we describe both of you. You know what? Let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game S Mornings, or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we got a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with The Last of Us multiplayer game has been canceled. Naughty Dog says it will focus on single-player games. This comes from Mark Delaney at GameSpot. The Last of Us multiplayer project, which Naughty Dog says it had been calling The Last of Us Online internally, has been canceled. The studio revealed the news in a blog post, citing the game's ambitions as being so big that it would require the full attention of the studio, thereby taking any part of the team off of narrative-driven single-player games, the likes of which have been Naughty Dog's MO up to this point. Here's a quote. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. The statement reads in part, to release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all of our studio's resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So we had 2 paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. Obviously, Tam, they chose to go with the single-player games. If that's your choice, that's probably the right decision. At a certain point, you're like, man, how do you kind of force yourself into this corner? And I get that a little bit as well, but what do you think about all this?
I mean, it makes perfect sense. The thing that has me on edge is, did they scale up to make this game? And does that mean that now that they cancel it, they need to scale back down?
Hopefully not.
And what we mean by that is, will there be layoffs for this?
Yeah.
And right now, it's hot for video game developers and people working there. As in, people are getting laid off a lot. This is the kind of time of year where people do get laid off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And a few companies, some companies try and do it quietly and hide that layoff under, different other news or in between other news. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on. My hope is that there are no layoffs, and that Naughty Dog, a studio as big as it is and is as successful as it is able to retain the talent it brought on and pivot it into making the games that they say that they are they are specialists at making and the fans want. And if that is the case, then I think this is a pretty good assessment. It shows a measure of self-reflection that very few other developers and publishers have. Usually we see developers doubling down, and there's a good chance where when you see a games as a service, live service thing happening, most people can look at that just even on paper and go, that's probably not going to work, man.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've looked at their game, which could have worked, I'm sure of all the live service games, Last of Us Online would have been one that popped off pretty hard for a while. And they went, yeah, but means that we won't be able to do this other thing that we really want to do and really are good at doing. And let's be clear, Sony sees a value, a business value in letting Naughty Dog do that, because they don't just make single player games that they release and then they're done. They make single player games that they release that impact the culture of video games and then extend beyond video games themselves. HBO's Last of Us TV series, huge for them now. Uncharted was a movie. Not necessarily huge, but nevertheless multimedia impact. They would rather get that out of Naughty Dog and not really kind of upset the seas right now than risk so much on a live service game.
I think that's right. I agree that if this is the choice you're facing, this is the decision you have to make. The cultural impact of those games, the sort of posterification. You could put those games on posters for your PlayStation 5 on the sides of buses, and it'll make a big impact. And you're kind of rolling the dice with an online live service game about whether or not that's going to become the thing you need it to be. And in order to see if that can happen, they're right. They would have to dedicate a ton of resources to that. It would be all consuming. And I think that's probably what Bungie came and told them. Like, hey, the game you have is fun, but you're not accounting for doing things the Naughty Dog way for a live service game has whole other implications than doing it for a game that you're going to put out as a product and you can eventually put behind you. Yes. The Last of Us Part 2 takes a ton of years to make. You guys took a very long time on that. It cost a lot of money. Yes, but it's still very different because once you put that out, there's some updates. You'll have some DLC down the line. Sure, but you are able to look ahead in a way you just won't be able to. This thing will be an anchor around your neck, and that's a risk of its own, even at this point, even after all this investment. We could say what took them so long to come to this decision. You're right. A lot of other developers, a lot of other publishers would have just pushed through it, would have put it out there, and would have been like, man, we should have canceled this earlier. We should have just abandoned this when we really knew what it was going to take. But we were like, maybe. They're not saying maybe here. They know what works for them. And I think that's pretty good. Now, I think, the other question is, man, why don't we live in a world where a multiplayer mode in The Last of Us, the way it worked previously, could have just happened? Well, why aren't we getting those anymore? And I mean, we get that as well. But what do you think, Tam?
Yeah, I mean, again, like let's look back at what that multiplayer mode was. It was fun. It was a surprise for a lot of people. But in terms of like business return, it wasn't super great, and it had like a limited lifespan. At the risk of devaluing, the work and the love that people have, I enjoyed Factions, or whatever it was. It's called Factions, right?
I think it was called Factions. Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed that for a while too, but they were very much of an era where multiplayer was tacked on to tick a box.
Yep.
To a lot of those, and some of them were really good,
of course.
In Factions. But some of them are like whatever. Like they were just there just to be there. And we got lucky with Factions, and then that is what people really like caught on to and like really hitched their wagon to, and we're like, we want more of this. That I don't think can happen these days, because it's a similar thing. Like you have to set up a kind of separate team to work on that stuff. Or even, I remember when this was happening, people would outsource the multiplayer mode to other developers, right?
That's right.
And I don't think that we're in a kind of landscape of development where that's feasible unless you are collaborating in a meaningful way and are gonna have like a future path on this multiplayer mode. Throwaway multiplayer modes are a thing of the past these days. You either commit or you don't, and if you commit, you are committing for potentially forever and into that thing, because if it succeeds, that's all people are going to want. The business model dictates that is what people will chase, like as in on the kind of like a corporate side, because a successful live service game is a constant stream of money, which when you tell them, all right, we're done with live service now, that's a hard thing to pivot away from. Like you're going to be stuck in that world forever. So you don't do one of these and then peace out for a little bit. I feel like you have to commit entirely. It kind of sucks, but yeah, those kind of like, it's weird. I have a weird nostalgic fondness for throwaway multiplayer modes now. I think about remember the BioShock one?
Yep.
That was
Metroid Prime 2 had a multiplayer mode.
Prime had one. Metal Gear had them for a bit.
And we get like, you're right. Like back then it was checking a box. It was also trying to stem people from returning the game, or not returning, but like selling it used on the secondary market. Oh, they're going to play it a little bit longer, and that increases our profits because that means there's fewer secondary games or second-hand games on the market. So more people are buying it new. They were doing that math, but now they're like, the calculus is, do we spend a lot more money that it would cost today to make a mode like that than it did back then, to try to stop people from selling their game? Or do we try to make it a live service mode separate from everything that can make, ideally, if it pops off, infinite money? And so they're looking at that, and it's in that world, even just doing these modes at all anymore doesn't make a lot of sense. Adding that huge extra cost, having to outsource to teams, and there's not like a lot of teams out there. Like, there's just not a list of people who are like, oh, we're not doing anything. Sure, you want to come hire us? It's like, no, you are competing for their time, and they've got 5 other projects they're working on. So yeah, we just live in a world where that stuff doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. Metroid Prime 4 comes out, whenever. That's not going to have a multiplayer mode in it, right, Tam?
I don't think so. I think Nintendo is going to be very, very careful about the games that they add multiplayer to these days.
Yep.
And I just, again, like Metro Prime, I feel like also was one of those games where it's like, wouldn't it be nice? Everyone expects this. Let's do it. But actually, it had very little impact. It was like fun for a laugh, but I don't think so. I think that game has had enough of a rocky road that they don't want to add more pitfalls to it.
Agreed, for sure. I guess the last few things here with Naughty Dog. What's the next game for them? Do you think it's Last of Us Part 3?
I think it's a mixture of Last of Us and Uncharted, where Nathan Drake gets infected by the virus, and I don't know what they do.
You heard it here first, everybody. Go write the stories. Yeah,
I would love to see them do something completely, different.
I think they probably have that in the works, right? Something completely different. That's probably in the works.
Yeah,
right now.
I like a character-driven. I just don't know what. Like, I initially I was like sci-fi, but we're just inundated with like space shit right now. And then I was like, they could probably pull off a really interesting like Game of Thronesy style game in fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy could be cool.
We got so much of that. Yeah. So I don't know. Make a kart racer.
There we go. That's what I really want. Were they the ones that made Crash Team Racing, or did they outsource that?
I don't think that was them. Let me check. Crash Team Racing.
That game's pretty good.
I might be wrong.
I have no memory. I do not know for sure at all.
Oh, it was by them.
Wow. Okay. All right. We'll follow it up. Crash Team Racing 2. Let's go.
Designed by Evan Wells. Artist Bob Raphael. Bruce Strady is on this. Yeah, Bring it back.
Go call up Phil Spencer and say we need Crash back to make Crash Team Racing 2.
Crash Team Racing. Phil Spencer.
Yeah, they own Crash now, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Jesus. Yeah.
Get on this.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
give us.
I don't know what they're gonna do either. But I would welcome a kart racer. Let's make it happen. I guess I won't be surprised if the next game for them actually is The Last of Us Part 3, just because that ends up being like the path of least resistance at a certain point. But I think they will have something new and different ready to go not soon after that, maybe even before. We'll see. All right, next story. The Game Awards set a new viewership record.
PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale 2.
Oh, there you go. You want Naughty Dog making that? Naughty. Yeah. Did you like that first one? I don't know.
Absolutely not. It was atrocious.
Well, Naughty Dog to make a good one. There you go. They did say that, like, for all the work they did for this, they implied like it will improve the technology of our games going forward, but they didn't say like, oh, we're going to use this to make a different kind of multiplayer mode. They made it sound like they're not going to do anything multiplayer at all going forward. So yeah. All right. Yeah. The Game Awards set a viewership record. This is from Jonas Maki at Game Reactor. If you were watching the Game Awards last week, you weren't alone, as revealed by the founder, producer, and host, Jeff Keighley. This was actually the most watched the Game Awards ever, with a whopping 118 million global live streams. Amongst the highlights was Sega delivering the return of several legacy franchises, Kojima taking the stage for OD, and more. Yeah, I mean, you cannot deny the success of getting eyeballs on game trailers and the awards that Jeff Keighley has accomplished here, right? Like, that's a huge, huge number.
Yeah, my man knows what he's doing.
Yes.
Like, and it is, let's be real for a little bit. Like, there has been criticisms. Everyone's got criticisms of the Game Awards. And I'm going to say some stuff that might sound like I'm defending or what Jeff did, and I'm not trying to defend it. I've made my position very clear on it. I put up an article yesterday, which was like involves over 300 developers quoted in it.
Yep. Good work on that, Tam.
But like, thank you, I appreciate it. But like, Jeff is very, very receptive to feedback.
Yes,
that's one thing that I can very confidently say about him.
Agreed.
And his heart is also in the right place. I know everyone calls him Dorito Pope and all that kind of stuff. I have spoken to him a few times. I have seen other people speak to him. I've spoken to people who have worked with him on the Game Awards, and everyone says he gives a shit about this stuff.
Yeah.
So baseline, I feel like he is aware of what has happened to this year. I also feel like he is the person who has the best grasp of what it takes to reach these numbers. And unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but like the realities of the situation is everything that you see and chances are pissing you off is what needs to happen to make this kind of story happen. Like, this record viewership is because, in part, of factors like having celebrities that are annoying to us and that kind of stuff. The tricky part is finding the balance and making it better. That's the thing where I know Jeff is probably like, shit, I need to focus a bit more on that. And that is, I think, it's never going to be perfect. It will never be perfect.
No way.
Yeah. When we let the developers talk for too long, I remember this. I've seen it in other in other award ceremonies. I have seen people go, "These people are talking too long. Show me something interesting."
Of course. I mean, that was the meme with what's his name from God of War the year before, Chris Judge. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they show us trailers, people are like, rightly so, let developers speak.
Yep.
I think there needs to be a balance. It's hard to find. I think Jeff is going to keep trying to find it. He's probably going to make mistakes going forward. For me, the important thing is that he keeps at it and the team keeps at it, because I talked about this on Spot On. The Game Awards has an important place now more than ever that E3 is gone. And like, you can see the impact that it had, and could potentially have when stories like this come out, where it's like record viewers. There were 118 million people globally live streaming this. That is a lot of potential for the video game industry to do good. We just have to find a way to make it a little less serving of others and a little more of ourselves a bit, and showing ourselves. I say ourselves as if I make the games, but like, I'm speaking as a voice for people who make the games, as someone who loves those games and the work they do, making them feel a little more special than Anthony Mackie or Simu talking about his fucking broken leg. I don't give a shit about it.
Yep.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I think the shape, it's like a puddle, right? We like look at a puddle. If you were like, if a puddle suddenly came to life, it would be like, oh my God, it's a miracle. This thing had to be shaped exactly like this for me to be like this. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Things sort of water just fills in the space and it takes the shape of what it needs to take to exist. And the Game Awards is just sort of filling in the space it needs to fill in to be what it needs to be financially feasible and to get eyeballs. It just is almost nature taking its course at a certain point. So like the thing where it's like the balance, absolutely. So I'm not saying don't have Simuli up there. Maybe not Simulu, but if you do have a celebrity up there, just put a game developer next to them. And I think for me, that's like half the battle won already. So
yeah,
and I agree. The reason we can keep saying these criticisms and not feel like it's hopeless is that Jeff Keighley does listen. I've also spoken to him, but he's like asked for feedback before, and it's like, most people don't do that, and you do see year to year he implements and sometimes he overcorrects, and I think that's a kind of what happened this year. Overcorrecting on the length of the speeches and being worried about keeping a good pacing to the show, something that is a difficult thing to pull off. So
I also like feel like I like it when celebrities come up and they talk about the games that they like.
Yes,
but it's never meaningful in any way.
Right.
Like the person who, like, Jordan Peele came up, right, and he was speaking to Kojima. I am on record as being a fucking Kojima pervert. Like, I love everything he does. I vibe with his work. You know, I am a fan of Kojima. Jordan Peele comes up, I'm like, oh shit, Jordan Peele, they're doing that thing that they were going to do. And then they talk, and I cannot tell you how empty those words were. They literally said nothing, and they were pointing at each other and going, this guy, man, this guy. It's like, you don't need to tell me that Kojima is the guy.
Is that
like,
guy?
I know there's is 130 million people out there or whatever listening, but you also haven't told them anything about Kojima.
Yeah,
like, they don't talk about it. The person who, I mean, like, the best he got was like talking about Metal Gear Solid 2, but like, tell me why. Like, speak about why this partnership is good instead of just like, yeah, man, we're going to do partnership. It's going to be sick. It's going to be awesome. You had nothing interesting to say. This was just a stunt, and that's fine. You can have a stunt, but don't have a stunt for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The most impactful celebrity talking about their video game history moment was Abu Bakr Salim, who showed off his new game, and he obviously is known for Raised by Wolves, and he's in Game of Thrones, I believe, and he's on a bunch of different things, right? And that is the thing that was the moment for us. That was like, oh, that was awesome. He was in tears and like talking about video games and how he loved them, and
it was meaningful, like you said. We're looking for meaning.
Moment. Yeah. That was a good use of celebrity. So good on Jeff for making that happen and giving them a platform. We don't need Jordan Peele glazing up Kojima,
and we don't need maybe 12 celebrities. Maybe pare it back a little bit, but again, if you don't want to pare it back, Jeff, that's fine. Just put developers on the stage too. That's all. There are interesting developers. If we're worried about them being boring, well, you have the celebrity next to them. They could be entertaining, and let the developer be boring up there. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well,
again, there is a path to improvement that I know Jeff can see and is always looking for.
Right.
And I am extremely hopeful that the next year will be much better balanced. Again, it's not going to be perfect. We'll find something else to complain about. And sadly, that's Jeff. That's a curse Jeff has placed on himself. Yep. But I know that he'll improve it.
The other side of things, in terms of the games getting revealed, getting eyeballs on that stuff, unmitigated success. There are no caveats. There are. It works exactly as advertised to the people who are paying to get their stuff in that show. It seems clearly worth it. Everyone who I've asked about it, sort of on background, be like, "Hey, is it worth it?" Like, yes, we tell. I'll talk to PR. Like they say, we tell all our clients, if you have a chance to put something in the Game Awards, it's worth it. Go for it. Yeah, it could be expensive, but it's an expense that makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. So on that side of things, I think a lot of the announcements were very impressive and entertaining and exciting. So it's like, yeah, all that stuff's working. This really does feel like winter E3, and the criticisms can be reserved for the Game Awards side of things. Speaking of like getting attention by being in the Game Awards, Alan Wake 2 has sold an estimated 850,000 copies on console. This comes from Magnus Groth Anderson at Game Reactor. Neither Remedy nor Epic Games have yet to comment on how Alan Wake 2 has performed in terms of sales. This could be due to a number of reasons, but in the absence of official figures, analysts have begun to speculate, and that's where that number comes from. That comes from Piers Harding Rolls, who is an analyst at Ampere Analysis, who says they estimate it sold around 850,000 copies. But we've seen in the past a game do well at the Game Awards and then get a big bump. And I guess that's my question here. You think like we're going to see Alan Wake 2 kind of continue to have a lot of momentum coming out of the end of the year?
I think it's going to have a lot of momentum going forward. I just did like a quick search, and Alan Wake 2 was released in Europe on like May 2010, and then we have a story in March of 2015 where it had reached 4.5 million units of sale.
And it's like a different world, right? This game, there are no physical copies of this game, right?
Not currently, no.
Right.
No.
So that's a big uphill climb on its own. Not being on store shelves actually does still hurt games a lot.
Yeah, I think that it definitely does. And who knows going forward, we don't know the details of this deal. Epic has a big hand in that.
Yep.
And like, we want sales to be high, but there's also factors beyond how much a game sells that are contributing factors into whether a game is a success, especially for a situation where Epic is getting involved to publish it.
It doesn't have a physical. It's not on Steam.
Yeah. They are very aware
these numbers,
of
real quick,
stuff.
are console only. So this doesn't include however it's sold on Epic. This is estimated for Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah, and like, I'm not saying this is the case, but for Epic, sales, like, astronomical sales may not be the metric they're interested in. It may be a case of like Epic Game Store adoption.
Yes, this feels like an important win for Epic Game Store.
Yeah, or even like just perception. Like, this is a major moment for Epic Games, like, as a business, to be like, oh shit, they funded a game that would never have else gone made, and it popped off and it's award winning. I definitely feel like it's going to continue to sell and sell very well.
I agree.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is, I'm speculating entirely here, that there's some sort of like clause in the contract or a time-based kind of agreement in the contract where it's like, after this time has expired, you can work out a deal with someone to make a physical version of this.
I think so.
And I don't know, they go to a limited run games or something like that, or another publisher, and I just like, do you want to put out the physical version of this? And I probably will end up, I think that we'll end up seeing Alan Wake 2 on shelves.
Yeah, if they did the Baldur's Gate 3 route, where it's like you can get a physical version that is only as a collector's edition starting at $80. I think they could do that with Alan Wake 2. I think there's enough adoration for Alan Wake that would appeal to that audience for sure. But I mean, I think there will be a significant bump coming out of the Game Awards. It didn't win Game of the Year, but it was on stage a lot. It did win several awards. And I think that we saw with It Takes Two, right? Got to like 7 million copies sold or something like that. Now that's a more affordable game. The price was lower for that one, but still, it's like that sold really well. I would hope that Alan Wake 2 could have a similar trajectory. Probably not going to get to 7 million copies sold, but if it can like get up there into several million copies, I think that would be great for this, and it deserves it.
Yeah, I've seen a few people asking, how does that compare to Control? Last time, like December 9th, 2020, GameSpot has a story that says 15 months after launch, it had sold over 2 million copies. So it took about 15 months for Control to get there.
I think this game could be 2-3 million copies in that same time frame.
Yeah. And by the time that story was reported, we were aware of the AWE expansion as well. So they had done some extra stuff to it, extra work to it. I feel very confident like that it will continue to sell, and it will, net out to be a huge benefit for them to be this award-winning and exposed on the Game Awards.
Yep, and I think the word of mouth is super positive, and I think that's just going to continue pushing it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we have a lot more news. We're back right after this. All right, we're back, and like I said, we got more news. Wow, it looks like the busted GTA Trilogy is much better on mobile. This is from Zach Swisen at Kotaku. Fans jumping into the newly released mobile ports of Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition games, are discovering something surprising. It seems to include improved visual settings that more closely match the look of the original PlayStation 2 games, as well as new bug fixes. That's good news, but folks are wondering if these improvements will make the leap back to other platforms in the future. They have not so far. In November, Rockstar Games and Netflix announced that the highly criticized definitive editions of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas would be arriving on mobile devices in December. The games would be included in Netflix's growing game library, letting anyone with a subscription access them on iOS or Android at no extra cost. The reaction was mostly a lot of shrugging from fans who feel like the definitive edition versions of these beloved PS2 era open world games are still in bad shape 2 years after release on console and PC. But yeah, people started diving into this and say it looks better. Now, the big problem with the definitive editions in terms of the visuals, Tam, was that they seem to use a lot of, let's just call them development assist tools, but AI tools that tried to up-res many of the textures and the character models, and it ended up coming out fuzzy on the other side and looking pretty rough. Trying to get things back to looking like the original PS2 game should be the goal, because you could just up-res a lot of that stuff the normal way and not lose a ton of the detail, which they did. So it's nice to hear that this happened, but hopefully this stuff does come back to the other versions. Do you think that's possible, or is Netflix weirdness going to get in the way here?
No, I think it is a possibility. Whether it actually happens remains to be seen, but I would like that. I mean, I think there's a good case for it to happen, especially given the renewed, or I don't want to say renewed, because I don't think there's ever a lack of interest in Grand Theft Auto.
Right? Yeah.
But like a kind of reignited nostalgia for those old games in light of the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer, which is popping off like crazy. I imagine Rockstar is thinking, we clean up these old games again, but then again, I'm sure that those versions that we said were busted sold like 1 trillion copies.
Yep, you're probably right.
Whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. But like, Rockstar has shown a kind of, it's slow and kind of like very far in between, but Rockstar has shown an interest in improving their old games post-fact, post-release. So I wouldn't be surprised if it pops up eventually. The iPhone or whatever Netflix style approach isn't my chosen way of playing those games.
Of course.
So I do hope that they make their way back into the other versions of it, so I can enjoy them for like an hour each on a console with a controller or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I hope so. There's a bunch of people who could be real pissed off if that happens. If it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where. I can never tell, like, Rockstar's very busy making their game, right? And so this stuff feels like, someone at Rockstar's paying attention to this, but a lot of it's probably just Take-Two, 2K, well, not 2K, but Take-Two sort of like overseeing some of these things and be like, do they just want these things farted out? And that seemed to be what happened with the definitive edition. This time, apparently, Pot Skull in chat says that ex-Team Bondi staff members were on a team that did this specific port. And that's why it's better. That is interesting. I'm like, that's cool. And Team Bondi is LA Noire, right?
LA Noire, yeah.
Yeah, and that team's no longer a going concern. But yes, so that's pretty neat. And that does show like, they maybe found the right people to actually work on it and show some sort of guidance in terms of stewarding classic Grand Theft Auto games in some way that wasn't being stewarded before. But yeah, I think Grand Theft Auto is something that they want to be treated with a certain level of respect, and that means they need to treat it with a certain level of respect. So I think you're right. They will backport all these improvements in some way, in some time, maybe not right away. And again, who knows what the deal is? Like Netflix could have some hand in this, and so that could take some time as well, because it's like, Netflix feels ownership of this, so 6 months and then we can port that stuff. That would be weird, but Netflix is a weird sort of entry into the gaming space, and so it's hard to predict what that would be like. Ubisoft just delisted a game without warning, and it will kill its servers next year. This is from Zach Swisen at Kotaku once again. Shout out to Zach. Ubisoft's The Crew, which was released in 2014 for Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4 and PC. Was it really 2014? Man. Has been delisted without warning. Its servers will shut off next year, too. And because the game is an always online experience, Ubisoft has confirmed that it will become unplayable once that happens. The Crew is a massive open-world driving game set in a digital, but not to scale, recreation of the United States of America. While its narrative was a weird melodramatic tale of car gangs and criminals, the real reason to play The Crew was to go on road trips across Ubisoft Ivory Tower's squished but charming recreation of the USA. So they're basically, this game, I don't think you could buy it at all anymore. And
no.
And yes, and the servers are going to shut down here pretty soon, in the next year. It's like, and then the game is just going to go away. In an ideal world, Tam, there is a way to like flip a switch and make the games like be like, okay, here's an offline mode so you can keep playing this. Doesn't feel like we're anywhere close to that being the kind of work that these companies are going to put into it, right?
No, capitalism will never allow that to happen.
Uh-huh.
Like people will never give up these kind of like these experiences and let. It's so weird because like on the one hand I'm like, who fucking cares?
Right.
It's the crew.
Uh-huh.
There's the crew 2 is out there now, and the crew Motorfest is also out there, so you can play different kind of games. But also, there are probably like 8 people that really love the crew and are still super into it right now, and really want that to exist in some way or another. Or like people who have nostalgia for it because they played it when it came out. But yeah, I do wish for preservation's sake that when it came time that they would just like be like, we release this into the world, good luck, keep it alive, have fun. And the fact that they don't do that just means that people who are technically deemed pirates or like hackers will do the work. And
more work for them.
More and more I'm like, Godspeed, you hackers.
Absolutely.
Godspeed. Good
Thank
luck.
you for your work. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for your service. These companies are never going to sanction it. They'll never do it officially. So I have nothing but love and support for you who are doing this stuff.
Yep. You are doing the work these companies never would, and you do it just because you love it. And that's some powerful stuff. So yeah, I'm right there with you. 3D Realms hit with the latest round of Embracer layoffs. This is from Stephen Mills at Destructoid. According to 3D Realms founder Scott Miller, the Danish development company is the latest to be hit with layoffs from parent company Embracer Group. Miller confirmed that several sources from the company told him that at least half of the company had been laid off. 3D Realms has had quite a few recent releases, including Iron Fury, Aftershock, Rip Out, the Kinderman Remedy, and Kingpin Reloaded. Embracer Group acquired 3D Realms in 2021. This continues the almost weekly trend of Embracer Group enacting layoffs, with over 900 employees losing their jobs just this year at the hands of Embracer alone. According to an interim report by Embracer, the layoffs are due to a reduced number of projects across the board, all while posting a 13% increase in net sales this year.
Embracer can acquire these nuts. That's what they can do.
They can just jump up my butt. They are really doing
Give me
damage.
Legacy of Kain, you fucking losers.
Now we see what it's really about.
Also, stop laying people off.
Give
me that franchise. Give me the IP. I will immediately give it back to Crystal Dynamics and be like, please. I don't know what to do with this. Just do
a hot dog and a handshake. Get to work. There you go.
Yeah. I'll buy it just to give it to Crystal Dynamics for free.
Yeah. I mean, we know Embracer's a fucking mess. It's been a.
The question is, and I asked this question because I'm a stupid idiot on the internet that doesn't really know that much.
Yeah.
I just kind of know a little bit, but like, where were the checks and balances to stop this from happening?
Yeah.
Like, I get the feeling, or at least I imagine people would be like, everything was above board. They were acquiring, these kind of assets through legal means. Where is this setting precedent now? Like, the impact of this should at least be used to set precedent where, in a similar way that competition laws exist to avoid singular companies becoming outsized in power in a certain like field. Why doesn't that happen in an acquisition-based situation? That needs to be there now because Embracer has fucked this industry.
It is so a crater upon this industry, yes.
Yeah, it's so badly that some of those people, I would argue, should go to jail. Like, it is insane. The lives they have ruined is unbelievable. Like, someone needs to go in there. And this is the only time I'm willing to support cops, okay? Fucking arrest these people.
We actually would like to speak to the manager so we can fuck them up.
I am the Karen now.
Let's get our haircuts.
Let's get our
manager. And let's get in there and see a manager.
Yeah, but like, there's just some like grubby losers at the top. Not you, grubby.
What the fuck?
Greedy losers at the top. Greedy losers, like CEO executives at the top that bet everything on this investment deal that they were waiting for and bought everything up. Like, those are the people that need to be reprimanded and like punished for this. Because like you said, they are a crater in this industry that people will spend years recovering from, if at all.
Yep. I mean, we know the answer about why there's no checks and balances. When we like just think about it for a second, we know it's because the governments are afraid of getting in the way of being like, okay, you started this company, you want to sell it to someone else. I guess you should be allowed to do that. And they're afraid to be like, well, what's going to happen next? What about all the people that work here? And clearly, this is the prime example of how it can go bad and how it can actually be severely detrimental to an overall marketplace. And yeah, maybe the answer is not to step in, but maybe the answer is to slow them up a little bit so they could not have swallowed up so much so quickly. To the point where it's like there was no plan, especially if things start going wrong, especially if money becomes more unaffordable to borrow, and now they're fucked. Net sales are up 13%. They've had multiple blockbusters this year, multiple million-selling games. Embracer Group has. And this is where we're at with this company. They're like, this is a fucking disaster.
Between this and like the HBO, like Warner Brothers stuff, where they're just like, we've created this. Now watch us kill it in front of your eyes. Like, it's like, what the fuck is happening in this world? Like, what is going on? This is like capitalism gone just absolutely sicko mode on everyone. I don't know, man. It's just terrifying. Like, these corporations need to be stopped.
Yep.
We need Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah. Let's take care of these corpos. All right. Over half of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 players have used the game's accessibility settings. This is from S.E. Doster at GameSpot. A new blog from Activision details some of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's current accessibility settings, and it also provides statistics that show nearly half of the player base customized their settings using the accessibility options in last year's Call of Duty. While the main focus of the blog is to highlight the accessibility settings for Modern Warfare 3, Activision provides a few interesting statistics for last year's Modern Warfare 2, revealing more than half of all players adjusted the graphical accessibility settings. This includes making changes to motion blur, field of view, and camera movement. More than 40% of Modern Warfare 2 players customize their dead zone input as well. This year's Modern Warfare 3 includes the same accessibility options, but pushes the range of customization even further, with brand new features such as the stick tester for a better adjustment of the analog stick dead zone input, the graphical high contrast mode, and the low motor strain setting. Every time anyone complains about adding accessibility modes, I'm just like to remind you, almost certainly you've used something that would qualify as accessibility, right? Closed captions, a million things. Having the ability to invert your stick, for me, is an accessibility setting.
Yeah.
It's just how my brain works. Like, that's at a certain point, it's like if we're adjusting for the way my brain has been built, that's accessibility. So the idea of expanding it, making that more and better and more inclusive, clearly that's the way it should be. And it's a Call of Duty being a prime example of that is fantastic because that's like the game, right?
Yeah. Like dead zones, like FOV, all this kind of stuff is people take it for granted as like cool video game feature, where actually it's like, no, those are also helping people and making games more accessible for them. So I get behind it. Like there's no downside to improving accessibility. Like there is literally none. It doesn't impact you in any way. It creates options for other people, and if you don't need it, you can ignore it. It's not an issue. I'm glad that, I feel like you said, a game and a franchise like Call of Duty should be leading the way in accessibility, because then, it blazes a trail for other developers to do the same and ensure that they are spending the appropriate amount of time, energy, resources, that kind of stuff, researching what needs to happen and then implementing it. So as a whole, the industry can move forward and kind of like open its doors to people from all walks of life to play video games, and that just only strengthens the medium as a whole.
Agreed. And I think we'll continue to see the benefits of it. For me, it's like I'll be playing a game that has a really good accessibility or like it's baked into the UI at a certain point where like the way they're presenting information to me, it's like, oh, they're thinking about people who are better at reading, better at listening, better at whatever, and they're giving you multiple pathways to learn how the game works. And for me, as someone severely ADHD, that's a godsend. It's like, okay, multiple pathways is the only way I can really get this stuff to be ingrained inside of me. And so it feels like, okay, if it's benefiting the 1% of people that you're like, oh, why are we doing this? Only 1% of players are like this. I guarantee it's making the game better for you as well. And important to remember. Final story here, just a quick, heads up. Suika Game is now available for Nintendo Switch Online members as a game trial. If you want to try out that thing that everyone's been talking about and everyone's been playing on Twitch, you could just go try it now. It's going to be, I think it's a game trial for the weekend.
I guarantee you this is what's going to happen when you download and play it. You're going to play it and go like, yes, all right.
Apparently Dan...
And then you'll play it more and be like, yes, good.
Yeah, Dan's like super into it suddenly out of nowhere, so... but I'm gonna try it. I have not played it yet, so I'm gonna look into it.
It's fine. Like I don't know why the entire world is losing their shit over it. I'm a huge lover of watermelons as well. Like so,
yeah, I'm a big watermelon guy.
I'm a mark for this shit. Like, and I was like,
prime audience. Right.
Yeah, it's me. I'm like, yeah, it's all right. It's fun.
Jan says that's how he feels about Connections. Yeah, I like Connections a lot, but we definitely maybe talked it up a bit more than it needed. All right, poll question. Let's bring that up. This is from yesterday. Do you want a multiplayer Spider-Verse game from Insomniac in addition to Spider-Man 3 and Wolverine? 19% said yes. 81% said no. Tam, the rumors are maybe that Spider-Verse thing that's in the leaked documentation out of Insomniac could be referring to the multiplayer project that Insomniac says it is working on.
Insomniac needs to have a word with Naughty Dog, see what's going on.
See how that goes for you. It, like on paper it makes sense. I think maybe we don't need that. You don't need to do it. I think it could work, but
stop making live service games.
Yeah.
Stop so much. Destiny, look at Bungie, is probably one of the most successful ones. They're getting their asses clapped right now. And it's just like, why is everyone just so set on this shit, man? Here's the thing, every developer out there, you'll never be Fortnite. Take it from me. Trust me. You don't know me. I don't know you. You probably don't need to trust me. But listen, you're never going to be Fortnite.
If you're looking at Fortnite being like, we could be that, you can't actually.
There's only one. When World of Warcraft was king shit, no one could be World of Warcraft.
Yep.
Okay? And now Fortnite is king shit, no one's going to be Fortnite. You're done. You're cooked. Don't try it.
All right. That does it for the last time's poll. We have a new poll I'll put up here in a second. In the meantime, though, before we get to that, Tam, what do you have going on? What do you want to tell the people? Where can they find you on the internet? All that good stuff.
People, I think you're very pretty. I think you smell nice. I think you're very smart. Ooh. And I think you should be kind to yourself and love yourself. What we have going on? We are going to be playing Lethal Company.
Yes, we are.
And that is going to be a mess, I imagine. But that should be fun. So we're going to do that a bit later on. And then we also have Bombcast Revengeance happening this afternoon. And that is going to be a fun one. You should tune in for that.
Yeah, it's going to be our music episode. That reminds me, I got a Turbo Sean, if you're listening, add the Pizza Tower theme song in there. Yeah, that's some of the best music of the year for sure.
We got the big dog Sean handling it. It's going to be fun.
Yep, it's going to be a good time. Packed ass day. Thank you, Sean is here. Great. Let's see. I was going to mention. Oh, yes. Marino in chat just said that community voting for Game of the Year will start on Monday. Make sure you check that out. I think that happens on the forums, right, Marino? So sign in, go ahead and do some voting there. Mike is going to be doing his part of the what's our charity thing? God, I can't know. It slipped my mind.
Extra Life?
Thank you. Extra Life. He's going to be doing his Extra Life stream tomorrow. It's going to be Kingdom Mixmas, I think. He plays Kingdom Hearts for a bunch of time. Yep, there it is.
No!
That's how I feel, too. I agree.
We're going to be publishing guest lists fairly soon as well, right?
Guest lists are coming in hot and heavy, and those will begin getting put up maybe at the end of next week. But definitely over the holidays. So look out for that.
When you see those, make sure you share them everywhere so that it floods the internet. Yeah,
there's some fun friends that sent over their list so far. So it'll be good. Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it. An hour from now is when we're going to start Lethal Company. So we'll raid somebody here in a second, everybody, if you're watching live. In the meantime, though, Tam, thank you so much for watching.
Sorry.
No, what's up?
Someone called Todd Howard just appeared in the chat. I wasn't asked.
Todd Howard was in the chat earlier answering questions, and God, they're like, why did you add maps to the game earlier? And Todd says, the astronauts didn't land on the moon with maps. which I actually don't think is true.
I really love when people roleplay in the chat.
Yeah, we got on my other podcast. I got people giving me super chats, and it's Jim Ryan and Shigeru Miyamoto, and they like snipe back and forth with each other. I think it might be the same person. But role playing's fantastic. Everyone should do more of it.
Whoever you are, Todd Howard, fake Todd Howard, I love you, man. You're the best.
Tam, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I love Dregs Day. I love talking to the big dog, my homie Jeff Grubb.
Thank you, Tam.
And I love you all. Have a good weekend, everyone.
We love you all. You're the best audience of gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. That's right. Paul G. Mouty's in chat sometimes as well.
Starfield Day, gamers.